everyone. When I started looking into keeping Opae'Ula, there really wasn't that much information about them. So this video is going to be all about Opae'Ula and their care. So I first came across Opae'Ula when I was looking for Christmas gifts on Amazon last year, sometime around November, and these little EcoSphere things popped up, and they're basically these little round tanks that are a perfect fit for a small desk. So I was really interested in purchasing it because it was advertised as a no maintenance tank. You didn't have to feed it, you didn't have to clean it, you didn't have to do anything with it except for look at it. But I did my research and it was not as great as I expected. These little EcoSpheres are cute, and 2 years may seem like a long time, but they're basically death traps. They're not self-sustaining ecosystems, and the algae that the light provides isn't enough nutrition to keep the shrimp healthy. Because of this, they actually shrink after each molt and are basically eating themselves to death. Opae'Ula can live up to 20 years, and these EcoSpheres cut their lifespan short by about 90%. The average human lifespan is about 80 years, so imagine dying at 8 years old because your body basically had to eat itself to survive. That is awful. So don't buy EcoSpheres. They're not self-sustaining, and you're basically torturing these poor little creatures you're supposed to be taking care of. Opae'Ula are actually endemic to Hawaii. They can be found in ankyline pools, which fluctuates both in temperature and salinity at different parts of the day and year. In order to adapt to these conditions, Opae'Ula have evolved into extremely hardy organisms. Because they're so hardy, they're actually really easy to care for. They're not no maintenance pets, but they are low maintenance, which is really great for anyone. Opae'Ula can survive in any sized aquarium. They can live in a small cup or bowl as long as it's kept clean and they're fed regularly. But I always think of it like this. If you were given a choice, would you live in a tiny room for the rest of your life or a house? Ankyline ponds are pretty large bodies of water, and I feel that restricting an animal to a tiny space where they barely have any room to swim is just wrong. I currently have about 40 Opae'Ula in a 5-gallon tank, which has worked really great for me with a few modifications. Opae'Ula live in brackish water, which is in between fresh and salt water. They do best in brackish water with a salinity of about 1 in 5,000ths to 1 in 100th specific gravity. To get this, you want to use marine salt, which is basically the same kind of salt that comes from the ocean. You don't want to use aquarium salt or table salt or any other salt you can think of, just use marine salt. I mixed 1/4 cup of instant ocean sea salt for every gallon of bottled water. Some people recommend RO water or distilled water, but the seller I went with said definitely not to use that. I use the bottled water that you can get at any grocery store, and I've never had any issues. Anyway, mixing 1/4 cup of instant ocean salt for every gallon of bottled water will give you a specific gravity closer to about 1 in 100ths. I currently have mine at 1 in 8,000ths. You will want to use a hydrometer to measure this, which can be found at any pet store or fish store. If you go over, dilute it with more bottled water, and if you go under, add about a tablespoon of salt. Mix well and remeasure until you're between 1 in 5,000ths and 1 in 100ths. Most tanks have to cycle for 6 to 8 weeks and sometimes even longer so that the level of ammonia and nitrites that build up from waste don't kill whatever you have in your aquarium. There are different methods to cycle your tank, which you can do, but Opae'Ula are hardy enough that they can be introduced before your tank fully cycles. What I personally did was I set up my tank with brackish water and turned on the filter. I used some of the Nutrifin cycle from Hagen to start building a colony of beneficial bacteria that will break down waste and convert it to harmless nitrates. For a 5-gallon tank, I used a dropper to inject 12.5 milliliters the first day, 5 milliliters the next 2 days, and 2 milliliters the next 3 days. Then I left the filter running for about 3 weeks without anything being introduced into the tank. When I ordered the shrimp, which had to be shipped from a breeder in Hawaii, I also ordered a gallon of their cultured water to mix with my own prepared water to help acclimate the shrimp. I dropped 5 of them into the tank to see how they did, and after 24 hours they were still alive and well, so I transferred the rest of them to the tank, and they've been doing pretty well ever since. I haven't lost any except to the filter at the beginning, but I fixed that problem pretty quickly. Because you'll probably be receiving juvenile shrimplets, you'll most likely have to alter your filter so that your shrimp will not get sucked in and die. My tank came with its own filter, but if you're buying one, you want to make sure it's the smallest filter possible and that you cover any openings with a fine sponge or mesh screen. Don't use a dishwashing sponge. There are a bunch of chemicals in those and you don't know where that's been. Buy a sponge made specifically for an aquarium filter. Women's pantyhose works really well for this as long as you wash it thoroughly. But for my fufuchi, what I did was I bought this Fluval biofoam filter and cut it into pieces that would fit the openings on the filter. So the way I did that is I just took a knife and I cut out the pieces that I needed to fit into the openings of my filter. And as you can see, the sponge is actually fine enough that it'll prevent any small shrimp from getting sucked into the filter. Do not leave your tank in direct sunlight. This will fluctuate the temperature in the tank too much during the day, which can stress out your shrimp. Yes, the temperatures in alkaline ponds fluctuate too, but they fluctuate much more and much faster when you have a tiny body of water like a tank. You want to have a strong light source that can grow algae on the stuff in your tank for your shrimp to eat, so leave this light on for about 8 to 12 hours a day. If too much algae starts to grow on the walls, you can clean it off with an aquarium sponge. The algae that grows in your tank does not have enough nutrients to sustain your shrimp. It's kind of like if you just ate from one food group. You need a balanced diet to be healthy. So to supplement their algae diet, I feed them 4 color-enhancing shrimp pellets from shipmart.net once every week. It takes them a little while to detect the food, but once they find it, they pretty much swarm it and take turns eating from it. So this is what the shrimp food looks like, and this little itty-bitty container has lasted me over 7 months now, and there's still plenty left to last me probably another couple of years. You can pretty much use any substrate you want in your tank, from rocks to gravel to sand. Just make sure you wash it until the water is clear. Then you can put it in your tank. I have black sand substrate in my tank, and my shrimp love to sift through the sand for food. The black sand also helps to bring out their red color. They really like things to cling on and to hide in, so the more surface area, the better. Remember, they come from Hawaii, so lava rocks are in their most natural environment. Some people make lava rock mountains, but I just have the one lava rock that all the shrimp like to hang out on. Use plants that naturally thrive in brackish water. Freshwater and saltwater plants will not work. You may be able to acclimate them to brackish water very slowly, but I've not attempted it and probably won't try to. I went the easy route and just bought a bunch of plastic plants. Opae'Ula also like places to hide. From what I've read, this assists in the reproduction process and helps them to mate easier. I put a small little cave in there for them, but they don't really like to hang out there. They all just cling to the one lava rock that I have in the tank or hang out on one of the plants. When I first received my Opae'Ula, they were just juveniles and super tiny. It's been 7 months now, and they've gotten a lot bigger, but I haven't seen any buried females, so they may not be sexually mature yet. Another YouTuber I was watching a while back had his tank for nearly 4 years before he finally saw his first buried female. I can't remember which video that was, but I'll post the link when I do. Again, they can live up to 20 years if cared for properly, so you can enjoy them for many years to come. PPP snails make really great tank mates for Opae'Ula shrimp, and I got 3 of them that were shipped from Hawaii with the shrimp. PPP snails are a kind of nerite snail, and their shrimp will sometimes get on their backs to forage, and they don't mind that at all. They pretty much roam the tank and pick up whatever food or algae the shrimp leave behind, and keep the tank and glass clean this way. If you want to add other tank mates, make sure that they're not aggressive and will not eat your shrimp. So I just want to say that I am not an expert on Opae'Ula. All of the information that I have gained has been from research I've done prior to purchasing them and from the experience I've had with them over the past 8 months. So if you have any questions, please comment below and I'll try my best to answer them. And if you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. Thanks!